Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Welcome to V-Talks. I'm your host, Veronica Brockwell. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I know Valentine's Day is on a Tuesday, but I'm sure most of you are doing something lovely with your significant other. But there are some of us that may not be. And for that, we decided to have a Galentines Day Affair. I have brought on two new wonderful people to the V-Talks family and panel of experts. Both of these ladies are certified nurse practitioners in both adult and psychiatric mental health. They are going to be with us every single month, covering all things mental health. And I can't wait for you to meet them. They are so much fun. I adore them. Please welcome to the V-Talks. We have BRIANNE LIENKAMP.
Hi.
And we also have Hannah CHAPMAN.
Hello.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited to have you. We already have a really great chemistry. You know, before we decided to do this show, it was really important that we could have really good conversations and be real and answer people's questions. And yeah, you two are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
It's true. It's true because it has to work, right? So what I'd like to do is, before we dive into anything else, actually first, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
I forgot to tell you that. And I have, now everyone knows I do not drink on the show, but I do have a mocktail.
And it looks beautiful, and I'm jealous.
Well, it's 5 calories, and it's like margarita mix. It's probably not good for you, though.
Hey,
Dr. Wild, if you're listening, I really apologize. So I'd love for you both to tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves. BRIANNE, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell our viewers exactly what you do and how you ended up getting into this profession?
Yeah, sure. My name's BRIANNE LIENKAMP. I'm a board-certified adult nurse practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I started my own practice in Marion, Massachusetts, Seahorse Behavioral, right before the pandemic, a couple months before. And that's how I got to meet Hannah. She was my student at that time. And you know, because of really the turmoil and not knowing what was going on, we were able to develop a really good friendship. And, you know, and as colleagues too, you really have a lot of trust in each other going through something like that. So my background is oncology nursing, hospice nursing, and I had a degree in psychology first with a specialization in developmental disabilities, and my adult specialization is HIV, oncology, and immunology. So I'm really enjoying the psychiatric mental health field. I've been doing it for a while, and I have a special love for the geriatric population.
Wow, that's really impressive. Hannah, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm also a psychiatric nurse practitioner. As BRIANNE said, I did my training with her when I was in school. My background's a little bit different. I was a bedside nurse for almost 10 years. I'm very, very proud of that. And worked with patients in GI, like gastrointestinal oncology, and really the majority of my time, I worked at Brigham and Women's in Boston, was doing cardiac nursing. How I ended up in psych, it was kind of just meant to be, I guess. You do a lot of psych in patient nursing. You have to give a lot of emotional support. People are really vulnerable when they're in the hospital. So I feel like you're always doing psych in nursing. But really, honestly, what got me into it was the substance use like epidemic just kind of like really pulled me into it. And then once I got with Brianne, I really just realized that I loved this particular setting that we're in. So my kind of specialty, I kind of work with all ages, but I especially love like my little teeny boppers and my young adults. They have like a special place in my heart. So,
And you probably deal with a lot of anxiety related issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every day, all day long, even within each other,
Yeah.
even within each other, our day to day brings anxiety, and I think everybody can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we're gonna do a little sharing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little sharing because that's what we do on VTalks. So VTalks, for those of you that don't know, it is live and it's unedited, which means we're just doing our thing and we don't know what's going to happen. But for many people, this can be terrifying. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are, how many degrees you have, what you do for a profession. There can be people that are actors even that rehearse the script, or musicians that you would think would never have anxiety, but something like this could be scary. Or being in a situation where you're speaking in front of a lot of people, but you have something rehearsed. This is a little different setting, right? Because you don't know what's coming, right? It's a little different.
Anxiety provoking to talk about anxiety.
Right. And so we were talking about that, right? That you guys, this is what you do. You guys were even a little nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No shame in the anxiety game. We're happy.
No shame. There's no shame. And also, I was telling you a story about myself. When I was in my 20s, there were a couple of us that were asked to be on a local radio station to be interviewed. And we didn't have social media back then or anything. So it really was a big deal. Not that it isn't a big deal now, but it was even more of a big deal. And I remember I was asked a question and I started sweating, panicking. And instead, I said I couldn't hear the question. And I went like this because I was so terrified to open my mouth. And the guy was like, "Oh, come on." Like he knew, like you can hear the question even with these on, but it was my go-to move. And he didn't ask me another question after that. But what I did was I made sure, I never want that to happen again. And I need to overcome this. So I need to do more of it.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Look at you. Look at
And here we are. Is that good advice at times to face your fears?
Absolutely. Had something similar happen to me in school, and, avoided going to school for days because I didn't want to speak and do my English poem. And, it did. It really was a game changer to be forced to do it. And I can't thank that teacher enough to really put me to the task and say you're going to do it. Doesn't matter how anxious you are, or how panicked, or if you're going to pass out. I don't care. I'll pick you up off the floor and you can keep going. But it really was a game changer. Just like in your situation, it made you strive to be better, to do better, and to look back and really say it really wasn't that big of a deal, and it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, but I never forgot it. No. Not at all. Hannah, do you have any little stories to share?
Brianne,
so many.
Because she's like, where does she even start? Well, no, I think my experience with anxiety is like a little bit different from some of that. There's nothing that stands out in my mind as,
There's something that stands out in my mind from you, Hannah.
What?
when it was one of her first initial. All
right, bring it on. That's right, Brianne.
Okay, true. So yes, I was working with Brianne. I was a student. If you haven't even picked up by now, maybe you won't, but you'll learn eventually. Like, I am not a shy person. I will talk to anybody. I will chat up anyone, anywhere. My husband's like, you have friends everywhere because you just talk to everybody. So it's not often that I'm at a loss for words. And I was working with Brianne, and we had my first like pediatric patient during training. And this adorable little nugget had like just very hyperactive, like ADHD. And when I tell you I was rendered speechless, like they got on the call and they were like all over the place. And I was like, Brianne was like, so Hannah, what do you think? And I just was like, Brianne, back to you. Back to you, Brianne. Because I was like, I had no idea. I just, in that moment, I just froze. Yeah. So we talk about that a lot.
There was that one, and then the intimacy one too was also a great one.
Well, yeah, because we have to ask some uncomfortable questions sometimes. But you know what? I think sometimes being uncomfortable is a good thing, because from these moments of feeling uncomfortable, I could like channel that into, next time, which you learn how to ask questions in a way that feels more comfortable. And yeah, I mean, you get used to it.
Yeah, Hannah was asking, I
had to ask about,
right. She didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say, the S word.
I was like,
yeah,
nudging her, and I was like, Hannah, you have to ask the question. They're not gonna know. Like
you never felt a little bit like, and she's like, Hannah, just ask her. But now it's fine. Now I'm like so much more, because I talked about it. It's so not a scary thing anymore.
Well, for a year, we actually had a relationship therapist on here, and we would get into some very interesting topics as well. I was like, you've got to make this very like family friendly on the show. Like we can't, because anyone could be listening, but he I don't think has any, I mean, I never went to him as a patient, but I can imagine, he has no problem with that. He's very highly respected too. Yeah. And, when you need to see somebody about certain things, you do need to have that kind of conversation, I suppose.
Yeah.
So the reason, so the topic tonight is actually the anxiety surrounding Valentine's Day. And we found an article from the Huffington Post, Valentine's Day, the commercially manufactured holiday. And some of the research that I found, this holiday triggers the most anxiety out of all holidays. And I thought, we need to talk about that, because there are people right now that are probably struggling.
Yeah, I was reading as well that the day after Valentine's Day is often a big breakup day, a big divorce day. And, I think it does. It brings up a lot of feelings for people, trauma, intimacy issues, generalized anxiety. Mm-hmm. And, one of the take homes that I kind of looked at too was how it makes the individual feel. It's really provoking maybe fear, worry, stress. I think there's a lot of emotions that come into it, contributing to the anxiety.
Well, Brianne, when we first started, when we met earlier, you had an experience. Was it today in the store that you were telling me?
Yeah, last night in the
last night.
Or 2 nights ago, because my husband had to leave for Germany. His grandmother passed away, and so we went to go get her a card at the store, and I was amazed. I walked in and it was a Valentine's Day wonderland, balloons everywhere, flowers everywhere. I really have not seen something like that in terms of Valentine's Day being that commercialized. And I felt uncomfortable. I felt like this is a pressure, and and I was kind of glad that I could remove myself from that situation and think about what it means, and in my personal life and my family and friends. But I could see how that would cause a lot of anxiety for for people going in. Things are expensive right now, and
Yeah.
that might be a big pressure for someone to get these big balloons and flowers and chocolates, and it was a lot. I thought it was a lot.
Well, my girlfriend actually just had a conversation with me before I popped on with you guys, and she went to the store to grab something, and she said the lines were so long that she just put her stuff away and left. And she thought, and you should see what people are buying. It's not even anything you would really want anyway. It's almost the pressure that you have to have something, and people were just panicking, And I don't know. What are your thoughts, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not sometimes even just the balloons. I think sometimes, I've seen situations where people have gotten which, hey, more power to you if you can, but really expensive gifts that, I think make people
I've
feel
gotten
certain, right, which is great. And I think if that's something that you and your partner, if that's your thing, I think that's great. But I do think just because of social media and stuff, and the fact that we can all see what one another is doing all the time, it does put pressure on ourselves to, I guess, perform to a certain level and make sure we show our love enough. And it definitely is a lot. I think it puts a lot of pressure on everybody. And Brianne's right. It's tough times right now for people. Some people don't have, even $20 for a box of chocolates is not, it's not cheap. You could put that towards gas.
Yeah.
And let's talk about social media, because I'm on it all the time, and everything on my feed is beautiful and wonderful, and I love it when people post. So I don't want them to think that I'm looking at it in a negative way, because I'm not. But it does make me think sometimes, the images that we see out there, you're really happy for other people, but if you're not in that same space, it can kind of trigger some feelings, for sure. Right.
Yeah. I think that, brings a lot into what we do in our day today, is because if you don't have somebody, then you're looking at picture perfect and you're saying, why not me? I'm not good enough. I feel this way. I'm just, negative thinking really starts to take over. And it's not just the anxiety that breeds depression. It brings maybe the thoughts that, I shouldn't be here anymore. Nobody cares about me. So, I think that is a big piece of it, is how you might feel.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? So loneliness, right? So it's Valentine's Day, you don't have anyone in your life for whatever reason. And you're isolated, but this is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think, we talk about the aspect of social media a lot. And I think part of that comes down to just working on your own self-awareness, in the sense of, really understanding where you're at around certain holidays. And, maybe it's best to stay off social media on those days, just to kind of give yourself a break. I recommend that to people all the time. I call it Marie Kondoing your social media account. Marie Kondo does all this organization stuff. And I'm always if it doesn't bring you joy, you got to get rid of it. So, if you're following pages that are making you question yourself or your value, or you're comparing yourself, which is so easy to do, then it's got to go for right now. You know what I mean? So, and that's, I think, what we try to help people do is to really look at themselves and say, where am I at this time? And what is healthy for me to put myself around, and what's not healthy for me to be around. I think that's important.
And I think you see it a lot too with the adolescent population, and just how detrimental sometimes that perfect image can be. And, I really, Hannah will often make a little poster for the kids or the adolescents before they leave. And it's a positive self-statement that they go home with. And it really can help in situations with loneliness or the negative self-talk that I am great, I am powerful. And really it is that self-love that breeds more of that self-care and
That's so true.
taking situations like this and taking loneliness and reframing it and looking at it in a different way.
Yeah. Like, who cares if you're lonely with yourself? If you're fabulous, then spend all the time with yourself that you want, because I'm a great time. So I would definitely want to hang out with me. That's how you have to look at it, right?
in that 5-calorie margarita.
Right. Or whatever.
And when we're done with this show, there will be some tequila going on. Yeah, it's great. 5 calories. It's like this. You can't beat it.
There's no loneliness there.
There is no
loneliness there.
I've got my dog Annie. I have all, so it's all good. So all right. So we're going to go on to this now. This is something else that certainly needs to be considered. PTSD and anxiety regarding prior experiences.
Well, you think about that, you think about you have good times in your relationships, you have bad times in your relationships. And, anyone's trauma is so subjective. It's what they experience that might bring about feelings of anxiety, that might bring about feelings of sadness, anger, fear. And, people go through hard times in relationships. And, I think this is a big piece that some people just bypass the holiday. This really brings up bad thoughts, bad emotions for me. And, and how do you get through that? And there are definitely ways that you can get through that and cope with it, but that is real for people. And to be mindful that it's maybe a joyful holiday for some, but not for others.
Yeah.
We just touched upon this. Gift giving, commercialization, same, right?
Yeah.
Just a lot of money, a lot of pressure, especially right now with the economy the way it is. People don't have a lot and everything is so expensive, but then there's still this pressure.
Yeah, I mean, eggs, butter, your basic necessities, are super expensive right now. People are struggling, and I think we're in an area that we have a lot of people that are very fortunate, but we see clients in all different areas through the benefits of telehealth now because of the COVID pandemic. It really has opened up our eyes to being involved in the foster system and with the Department of Child and Family. And, we take for granted sometimes the basic necessities, and it's a bag of chocolate. I mean, how much, candy we buy some for the office, which is awful because we eat it all day, $15 for a bag of candy, and it's, I think about it when I'm like going through Target, and I'm like, is it worth it? Do we need it? Is it a necessity? And it is. It's you're always balancing that, but it really, things are expensive, and I think that is a huge pressure for someone. If that's, like Candace said, your gas money, that it can lead to more fighting and stress in your relationship.
Which actually makes me think of too, there's this, I'd have to look up exactly who it is, but it's not coming to me right away. But there's this test that you can take for relationships, and it's all about the 4 love languages and how, everyone has a different love language. And I think the assumption is that for a lot of people, it could be who doesn't like getting a gift? I mean, everybody likes getting gifts, but, for some people it's touch. For other people, it's, affirmations. Also maybe taking, even before Valentine's Day comes, if you do have a special someone, really finding out what is your partner's love language, because you might be buying gifts and that might not even really be a way that they want to receive your love. Some people, I mean, I like gifts, but it's just as important for me to have quality time with my husband, or, for us to have good communication. So, like, we're not doing anything tonight. We're staying in, and we're both perfectly happy doing that, you know, because we've kind of discussed with each other, like, what fills up our love tank. You know what I mean? So, so I think that's important too, you know, like, it doesn't always have to be this like lavish gift. If, you know, you want to take the time, open up communication with people, anybody that you love. It doesn't have to be like an intimate partner, of like how you can express your love to each other. It can happen in so many different ways.
I feel like this is a show right here. No, really. I mean, we're going to be doing this every month, but
Yeah.
I would love to have a show on what is your love language, and just really talk about it. Let's do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of already have, we'll talk about it later. We already have April, but you know, maybe we do that for May or something. I like that. All right, we're going to tackle that. All right, we don't want to digress. We don't want to digress, because if I digress, it could be more than an hour. I mean, it's not good. This one, all right, so this next one is huge. And I think we're going to be on this for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it is a big part of it. You know, if you think about hormonal changes, you know, if you are going through menopause, or maybe you've had some medical issues, maybe you are, you know, just had a baby or you're going to. I mean, there's so much to this particular point as well. I mean, look at the weight loss medication, just the blow up right now of the type 2 diabetes injectable medications used for weight loss, where people can't get them, you know, and, you know, and the use of stimulants, and people can't get them. And, you know, it's, you know, what are we trying to do? You know, we're all again seeing like the perfect images and trying to get to a place that, you know, we're using these technologies now, but it impacts how you're really, you know, really responding to a partner potentially on a holiday like today.
Yeah, like lights on. What?
I love it.
Right?
It's so true, though.
No,
I mean, we're
like,
all guilty.
like,
Everybody's guilty of it.
Put this on.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but it's just there's a lot of pressure, right?
It's so true. Yeah. It's so true.
Well, I'm used to having, you know, the relationship therapist on, so sometimes we would talk about these things. Yeah.
I mean, these are things that like everybody deals with. And I think, again, like, you know, you turn on the TV and there's these like, you know, Bridgerton, like whirlwind romances, and, you know, all of these like, you know, really like sexy scenes and all this stuff. And it's just like, you know, reality is that, like, you know, life's not like a movie. But, you know, your self-esteem and intimacy are so closely related. It's just not even funny. It's just how you feel about yourself 100% will be brought into your relationship, period. Again, goes back to like communication of, you know, talking to one another, because, you know, like a lot of assumptions can come from relationships when people are like, well, I don't want to be intimate because I don't feel good about myself. And then your partner turns around and thinks that it's because, you know, you don't find them attractive. That's probably like the last thing that's on your mind. So I think for a lot of people who have those issues anyways, like Valentine's Day can be even more difficult, because I think there is an expectation of like, well, tonight's the night. You know
I've been waiting all year.
The only night. No, it's true though. I mean,
and I bought cards,
right, lingerie and all that. So, I mean, gosh, like imagine how much money Victoria's Secret probably makes this time of year.
Millions. You know, it's the expectation.
Right.
It has
but
to
then
be.
they feed you a big meal full of carbs and you're going to sleep.
Well, right.
I mean,
I remember.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like,
I feel bloated. I'm tired.
Yeah. I remember like going to the mall when I was like 15 years old, and like seeing guys like at Victoria's Secret, like with these bags, and thinking to myself, like, am I going to have to like wear that? Like 15, like, is
Upside
this the
down? Is this the
expectation
front or the
10
back?
years that I put
Is this
that
the
on?
front or the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Meanwhile,
is
like,
the whole thing? Is this
yeah,
just the
like, I'm
bottom?
like, I'm not wearing a thong. Like, that's not happening. Like, no way. Yeah, it's just kind of funny, like all that stuff. It is so true. I mean, like, I was like a teenager and I'm already thinking about like,
Yeah.
what do I have to wear for my husband on Valentine's Day? I was like 15. But you're just like, it comes from all angles. Like you just,
Sure.
you really, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so
Okay.
true. It's so true.
Oh, it's wild.
All right. All right. So I think we've covered a lot of categories here. There's so many more. I mean, but at the end of the day, it's anxiety, right? So let's dive a little deeper into this. I want to know what anxiety is. Explain it.
I mean, yeah, I think, again, it's something that varies so much. There's a spectrum that relates to the topic of anxiety. And as a diagnosis, yes, there's certain criteria that have to be met. But, for a lot of people, it can vary. It really can. It's an emotional stress, it's fear, it's worry, and it's more than what the norm is, because we'll talk about how anxiety can be good. It can be a good thing for you. But for some people, the worries, the fears, they can't get past that. And then it starts to impact their day-to-day lives.
What are we afraid of?
It could be
Anything.
anything. There's so many types of anxiety. There's generalized anxiety, social anxiety. It can morph into these obsessions and compulsions, and your GI system is impacted by it. I mean, we talked about how you can go up here and do this show, but maybe going out in a public setting that kind of brings back some fear because of a childhood experience can be extremely provoking. And I feel that way too. Like, I teach and I can speak, and I'm a speaker for certain medications, but put me in a room with someone like face to face, and that's more anxiety provoking for me. And if for Hannah, she can speak to anybody.
Oh yeah, she can.
Not a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
that's where I met my match, with a 6-year-old.
A 6-year-old. Yes, that's true. Yeah, no, you're not a loss for words, Hannah. You're
not usually, but it happens.
You're my girl. Yeah.
It happens. It happens. I mean, and it can be thoughts, it can be feelings. Like, some people, their anxiety manifests as just like, chest tightness or tremoring, or feeling like you can't catch your breath. There's so many different there's so many different ways that anxiety can show itself, and we see it all. I mean, geez, we really see it all, and it's so common. I mean, I have anxiety. I'm very open with like my patients of like, I've had my own issues, and again, like, if you knew me in a social world, like, people be like, you don't have anxiety. I'm like, oh, if you only knew what goes on up here on a day-to-day basis. Like it's just, and I've worked on it, and I've thankfully come out on the other side of it. But yeah, I mean, I consider myself to be like a pretty, successful person, very like social, and I have my stuff too. Like everybody does, Nobody's perfect.
We're all broken.
Yeah.
I'm a train wreck, and I'm
No.
very open. No, I'm open about it. It's cool. It's all right. I like that about myself, that I can recognize that.
Right.
I work on myself all the time, but I'm still,
But you're not broken. Like, I don't think you're broken. Like, I feel like,
oh yeah.
No, I really,
That's awesome.
I really feel like, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about this, but it's like, I remember a therapist that I used to work with, because I go to therapy too, because I think everybody should. But she once said to me, and it stayed with me forever. She said, like, every part of yourself is a valid part, even the parts that you don't like. they're valid and they're there for a reason. So the same thing with anxiety. Like, you might get frustrated that you have anxiety, and you might hate that you have anxiety, but that anxiety is there for a reason. It showed up at some point as a protective thing. It's your system trying to protect you. And so it's, I think, really important to reframe it from this negative thing to like, this is just a part of who I am, and I can appreciate why it's there. However, I want to work with it and not feel like I'm working like up against it all the time.
And I kind of look at it too as like, how is it my superpower? And I tell that
Yeah.
to, like, the kids and, you know, the adolescents and my adults too, you know, how do you use it to your advantage? And I think we see a lot of it in nurses. Nurses are very, you know, prone to anxiety and obsessive compulsive behaviors. But you know what? It makes us good nurses. We're double, triple, quadruple checking those pumps, those medicines, those doses to keep people safe. So if we didn't have that capacity to do that, probably more errors would happen. And, you know, so I say embrace it. It's part of who you are. We all have anxiety, whether you're, you know, it doesn't matter what stage in life you're at or what you're doing, what your occupation is, what your financial income is. It's just something that we have. So how do you take it and make it your superpower? And you know, and I think it helps. It's just like ADHD, and you know, sometimes things that we don't really have a lot of control over, but you know, a lot of kids that have ADHD, adults, they're brilliant. How do you use that to your advantage and take something that breeds anxiety and turn it around to make it something that you can be proud of, that you can say, you know, this really has helped me. And you know, it's just the thoughts and how you look at it and how you validate it within yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed too, I mean, this is such a small thing, but I like to share. I want people to know that, you know, someone like me that's obviously like in front of people live all the time, you know, has huge anxiety too.
Yeah.
And so small things. So when I go back into my high school, because I've now moved back to my hometown, and I walk in to the gym at Old Rochester, I'm much better now, but at first I would literally break into a sweat just walking in there, because it triggered something from a fear that I had in high school. It was something that made me nervous in high school. I have no reason to be nervous walking in there. Zero. But I literally had to force myself to walk in that gym the first few times.
Yeah.
And those are hard times.
Yeah.
Those are hard times in high school, you know, that you were put into a clique. You might not get out of that clique. You're put into situations that maybe your hands are tied. And if you don't have that power or that knowledge to remove yourself, then you're building on these child adverse experiences, which again, it's anxiety, bringing out the anxiety.
Yeah, I have conversations with myself all the time, and I'm like, okay, Veronica, you're being silly. You're a big girl. Start walking. You know, but not everybody can do that. But I've just kind of learned to do, you know, to do those sorts of things just to help myself. But
well, and you know, like, you know, this is like a perfect example of like, you know, channeling whatever you're feeling into something different. You know, when you were a teenager, maybe that anxiety showed up because, you know, when you feel that intense anxiety, maybe it will prevent you from doing whatever thing that you're afraid you're going to get embarrassed about. You know, that carries over into later in your life. It's muscle memory. Like, your brain is an amazing thing. It remembers everything, and it remembers even like feelings, you know what I mean? So, you know, flash forward, you know, however much long, you know, years later, and it's like
10 years later.
Yes, of course. 10 years. I was going to say 5.
10 years later.
Yeah. So yeah, but you know, flash forward, and it's like, you know, that feeling comes up again, but you want to kind of, I say to yourself, like, you know what? I'm not that teenager anymore. Like, I'm a grown person. I can do this. Like, this is not a big deal. And you know what? If people don't like me, like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? But you don't have that capacity to think like that when you're 15 years old. I mean, I didn't, I don't think a lot of us did. But you do now. So it's like, it's realizing that whatever that coping skill that was trying to come in during that time, it's like, thanks for like showing up, but like, I don't really need you right now. This isn't the same situation, and kind of like transforming that into something different.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Can anxiety be a good thing?
Absolutely. Look what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's breaking the stigma. It's letting people know that it's okay to not be okay. I think we saw that statement coming a lot over, from the COVID anxiety that came about. And, I think that that's one of the benefits that came from that. For some people, they've had really severe anxiety, people that have never, ever had to experience that level of panic. And I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I'm having chest pain. I need to go to the ER multiple times. For some people, it's extremely uncomfortable. It's so scary. And, I think it can be a good thing to experience that at times, because I think you can relate better and try to help people to get through it, just like you were able to do. Now you're able to get to the gym, and you were able to use that anxiety to kind of push you into a place that you're able to say, I'm taking control over the situation.
Right.
Because it really is a lot of like mind over matter when we look at anxiety. And people find their safe place, which would be, I'm avoiding the gym. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. But then people get isolated and lonely.
Well, right. They avoid.
Yeah.
And I feel like well, you're the experts, but I feel like if your anxiety causes you to avoid situations, that's when it's gone down a bad path,
Right.
and you
Exactly.
probably should get some intervention, right?
Yeah, I mean, anxiety can be good. I mean, think about it. How many of us, if you didn't have anxiety, would you, if you had
My
a
goodness.
test, right? If you have a test coming up and you're like, I don't care if Brianne and I sat down to take our nursing boards and we didn't have anxiety, how do you think that would have turned out for us? Probably not well. It wouldn't have motivated us to study for our test. Like, it can be a really good thing. But if I start getting anxious to the point that I'm sitting there and saying to myself, you're going to fail this. Like, you are so stupid. What makes you think that you're going to be able to take that test and pass it? That's when it's not a good thing. So, it's kind of trying to let it not get to that point. And if it is, then that's where you want to step in and be like, why do I do this? Like, why is it that when I'm feeling anxious, my go-to is something bad versus something good?
Coping with it.
Right.
Yeah. I think
All right.
that's a good segue into that, is the coping strategies.
All right. So let's talk about some coping strategies.
So talk therapy I think that's what a lot of people probably are used to when you go see a therapist. It's many different levels. We'll talk about some of the things that can be used for tools, but I think this is probably one of the most popular ones, is doing what we're doing. How do you reframe that thought? How was your day? How would you do things differently? How did you cope with this situation 5 years ago when it happened? So I would say that is a big part of your therapy if you're going to go see somebody, because it's gotten out of hand, that it's not scary. It really can just be, well, what was the event that happened that made you feel that way? Or, let's talk about it. And that it really is a nice way to get to know somebody.
And then we also have group therapy.
Yeah, I mean, group therapy is great. You can kind of seek support from others. it allows people to kind of like bounce ideas off of each other. And I think the big thing with group therapy is that relation piece. Like we can relate to one another, and find strength in that and vulnerability to kind of like say, hey, like I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that's dealing with this. So I think that's good too. CBT. I love CBT.
I don't know what that is.
So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit different than talk therapy because it's a little more structured, I guess you could say, right, Brianne? And the best way to describe it is basically there's an event. The event happens. You have thoughts about that event, and then that affects how you feel. So your thoughts are related to how you feel. So for example, I'm getting on this call today and I'm anxious because I have this big talk coming and I'm live and I don't want to say anything silly. And
I do.
right, whatever it is, right? And I'm thinking about, if I think about it, oh, I'm kind of scared, but like I'm kind of excited, then my feeling is positive. It's like, okay, all right, we're going to do this. Now, if my thoughts are negative, my thoughts are like, oh gosh, Hannah, you are going to make such an idiot of yourself. How is that going to make me feel? It's not going to make me feel good about myself. So it's just how you think or how you
How you feel and think, and then the behavior.
Yes.
You know,
That's a big affects how you feel and how you behave.
Yeah.
So what then should you to flip that switch? So if you know you've got to try to convince yourself, make it positive.
Right. Well, you have to be aware. Number one is raising awareness. And I always say to people, take a listen of what's going on up there, because 9 out of 10 times say things to right here. We say things to ourselves that are so mean that you don't even realize it because it's become your daily dialogue. It's just that it's the constant chatter in your head all the time. And
we all have it.
We all have it, right? But it's not until you sit and listen that you're like, oh, wow. Like, would I say that to someone I care about? Would I say those things? No. So why are you saying it to yourself? So it's changing that inner conversation. It's challenging the thoughts. You have to challenge the negative thoughts. And it sounds really simple, but it's not. And replace it with something that's positive.
Or even just to reframe it. You know, even if
reframe, right?
Some people will say, like, I'm not a positive person. That's not going to work for me. And, you know, and that may be true. And I'm like, so, okay, so it doesn't have to be positive. You don't have to fake something that you're happy, but reframe it, change it, you know, because these thoughts are automatic. It's the computer that, as we talked about, that stores this information. And it's really hard work. It takes weeks upon weeks to change these thoughts, but you can do it.
I have a pet peeve, you know, when, because I'm somewhat of a positive person. I just am. I have negative thoughts. I don't want you to think that I don't, but I'm just, my cup is always half full, no matter what. I try and look at the bright side, and people that know me know this about me. It drives me up a wall when I hear people say, I hate people. And I'm like, gosh, like, I'm proud of it. I hate people. Yeah. And I'm like, to me, I'm just like, I love people. Like, even the ones that say I hate people, I still love them. Right. So it seems like, you know, that is something that it hurts me a little to hear it, and it makes me a little sad for that person.
Because what does it relate to? Probably a trauma, a bad experience, their own negative thought processes. You know, it's like those are the people that probably need the love more than anything else. Is,
literally,
you know, because,
and then you try and love them, and they're like, ah.
Yeah, but that's their coping mechanism.
Right.
Yeah. Maladaptive.
Right.
It's not a good. It's not a good one.
Yeah. No, I know. It makes me sad. Yeah.
I kind of think of it like a snowball. Like, you know, maybe that person grew up with like parents that weren't kind to them, and then they go to school and then kids aren't kind to them. And then that it's just like these layers, and it's like an onion, like it's just layers and layers of experiences that have shaped how they not only view other people, but how they view themselves. It's the messages that they're getting throughout their life. And that's why it's so hard to change it with CBT. That's why it's so difficult, because most of the time we're asking you to change really old stuff that's been there probably longer than you even realize. It's hard, and that's probably what happens with those people. And it does. You're right.
Is it projection?
Well, I think it's protection
in a way.
I think it's
protection.
Right. Like, I think it's,
right?
if I push you away, then you will never have the chance to hurt me. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Oh, makes me so sad.
But it is sad. But
right?
that's why we have to be like kind to each
Oh.
other. I know, but it's true. I mean, and again, we can appreciate the part of people that wants to push people away, but we all know that growth comes from being vulnerable and like letting people get close. But it's really, really, we say this like, just change it, like it's so easy, but it's not. Like, and we're the first ones to acknowledge, like, I'm asking you to do a lot.
Yeah. So you have to unearth why.
Yep.
And then start from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if these modalities don't work, we have medication management.
I mean, it's a large percentage of what we do. We do try to have that combination. People have the best outcomes with the psychotherapy plus the medication management. And, some things we can't change, genetics and environmental influences and medical issues that might breed anxiety. And, it's definitely, again, something to not be shameful of if you need medication to help you leave your home, get back to work, have a life with your family again. We can get into dark places pretty quickly and not have any motivation and low self-esteem. And now we have the depression on top of it. And you know what? If that can take the edge off to open those doors back up for you to get back out there and work on the non-pharmacologic interventions, it's not a forever thing for a lot of people. Right. And sometimes it is, and that's okay. It's whatever you need as an individual to give you a quality of life.
Right.
Well, just spending, time with the two of you, recently, it's amazing how much support I see that you give 24-hour support that you give your clients. You really are amazing ladies. And I'm so impressed with both of you. You have such warm and wonderful personalities. And I think you make people feel like it's okay. And this is actually everyone's like, we're all kind of normal. Yeah. I think there are more of us. I think everybody has anxiety personally. It's all very normal. Yeah.
We see it all, anxiety, grief, bipolar, depression, schizophrenia. And, I'm just so blessed to be able to work with Hannah and Mary and Sarah and Kyla. And, we have such a great team. And, I think that does set us apart, is because we actually do care. And, our patients, clients are not just, a number in the course of a day. They're, one of my patients said to me today, I feel like I'm talking to a friend. And I was like, because you're such a good person. And, we've developed a relationship over time, and they feel that, they see it. And, we've seen some really amazing changes in people's lives because of it.
Yeah. I felt it, when I met you guys. I was like, this is wonderful here. The energy, it's amazing. All right, we're digressing. Here we go. Alternative therapies.
Very important. I think, it's sometimes people, I think when we get into this topic, they're like, really? You believe in that stuff? I'm like, well, of course, it's not all treating anxiety, treating your mood. It is what we call it's multiple approaches. There's nothing bad about doing a little sprinkle of everything. So, you know, that could be Reiki, it could be yoga, it could be exercise, it could be honestly like just, you know, watching even how certain things, I was just going to say, like, if certain foods make you feel a certain way.
Sure.
There's so many different things, acupuncture. What else, Brad? I mean, there's just go to Merbeau, go get a massage. I mean, go, you know, anything. It could be anything. Massage therapy is a really good one.
Light energy, sound therapy,
aromatherapy.
I went to Cranston, Rhode Island the other day to the Hatha yoga. They had salt room, turmeric rooms. They had the eucalyptus sauna.
Yes.
I mean, I had the most fantastic time with a group of ladies from the Mattapoisett Wellness Center and with their practitioners there. And we went there 4 hours. Just unbelievable. So relaxing. They even had water beds. You could lay on you just go for 4 hours. It was really just an amazing experience. I highly recommend it. It was wonderful. And I had a knot in my back and I was just pushing on it and it literally fell apart because of the steam and all of the heated modalities. It just relaxed every muscle in my body. I think I'm going to try to go there once a month.
But it works.
You guys want to go?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I mean, we should go. I'm not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. Actually,
yeah.
That sounds amazing. I would 100%.
We closed shop last year and did a spa day, and we talk about it all the time. Like it was my favorite day ever.
They have that yoga there where you're in the like sheets. What's it called?
Oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about.
When you walk in, they have these classes that you can take, like intro classes. There's a big window and you can see what they're doing in there. That could be
talk
fun
about
too.
anxiety.
I'm a little. I know, I'm getting nervous. I have anxiety, but maybe that's what we do, right? We're like terrified, but we just say we're going to the intro class. We're going to do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. Okay, yes. All right, we'll talk about this.
It doesn't have to like happen on like one of my patients.
We'll talk after the show.
Yeah. Oh, we're doing.
Let's do it.
Like even like pillow spray on your sheet on your pillow, like lavender pillow spray. Like it doesn't have to be. I mean, trust me, your girl loves a spa day, but you know that's not always attainable. So it could just be like buying a diffuser or like
I do that.
I do too. Those things, just a stress ball, like anything that can kind of like can just stimulate your senses. A puppy. Yep. Yes. What we're telling you to do is to go out and buy a puppy.
Go buy a puppy.
I'm just kidding.
I have 3.
Yeah. I have 1 and I tried to get 2 the other day and my husband said absolutely not. So
and horses.
That's
a big commitment.
But you want to know something?
Don't do that. That's
but
silly.
You want to know something?
That will cause you anxiety if you have horses. They're expensive.
But
you don't want those.
Equine assisted therapy is another form of like non-medicine therapy, and that I would love to do something like that. That's another one. There's so many different things you can do that don't have to do with medication.
Yeah, animals are amazing.
Oh, they're the best.
Yeah, they really are the best. And then I didn't know what this was either, but you're going to tell me.
Yeah. So TMS is a magnetic stimulation to the brain, and it really started out with depression. If you remember back in the day, ECT, which we still use, this is kind of a gentler form of that. And so there's indications now for anxiety. They're trying to get more indications for obsessive compulsive disorder. Some of the treatments for depression, like ketamine and the nasal spray that treat the depression, we're also seeing some benefits to the anxiety piece too. So, I think it's just evolving there. We know that there's a space for improving anxiety, and I think there's just going to be new things coming out all the time.
Mm-hmm. And if you're having extreme anxiety and you need help, we have the behavioral health helpline. Please take note.
That's new for Massachusetts. It just came out, and I think it's a really great resource.
Great. We have the suicide hotline.
Also recently changed to make it super easy. So
Right.
24 hours a day.
That's so important. Local crisis center, go to your emergency room at any hospital, right?
Yep. 911, whatever you do, you will get help
Yep.
in any of these situations.
Yep.
And outpatient behavior health, we have psychologytoday.com. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's basically just a massive directory of providers. You can put in, your location, your insurance, and even filter with like specific issues that you're looking to work with. It's a great resource. It's just a huge directory to get access to multiple providers. And to Brianne's point earlier, now that we have telehealth, it opens up a lot more opportunity for you to work with. There's plenty of providers out there.
Yep. It's psychologists, social workers, Hannah's on there. I'm on there. We have a lot of our staff that are on there. So you could type in Seahorse Behavioral or Hannah CHAPMAN or BRIANNE LIENKAMP. You can put up providers in many different ways and filter through insurance. So it's a really great resource.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to have you ladies here. I really am. And I look forward to every single show that we do.
Same.
We are going to be a little bit more serious next month. We have already chosen a topic. Brianne, would you like to speak a little bit to what we're going to talk about next month?
Yeah, well, I think in light of what's going on in the news and the media right now regarding postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, postpartum psychosis, I think we really want to get the word out there that this is something that's real, that people do experience, that there's help for it. And so I think that it's a really good time to just get the knowledge out there for people to help them. And, we're really happy to be able to do that and, maybe talk about some of the local cases that are going on right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to heavily promote that show because I would like a lot of audience participation. I want to hear from people how they're feeling about it, or if they're going through it themselves.
Right.
Or have been through it and can speak to how they were feeling at the time. But it's a real issue that a lot of women go through.
Yeah.
And I can imagine it is very scary.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons we're doing this is we're trying to break the stigma of mental health disorders.
Yeah. And I think
right.
that time is even really huge with that because you have this new baby. You're supposed to be happy. Everything's great. And, people go through dark days. And right now there's a shortage of clinicians out there to help. And, you can feel alone and you can, it can be extremely isolating.
Yeah. Which is why I think it would be good to normalize that conversation because there's so many people out there who experience that. And, it's good to know that you're not alone, when it comes to that stuff. Because oftentimes I think we place high expectations on ourselves, shouldn't feel that way. But it can happen to anybody.
Yeah. It can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tragic.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And I look forward to seeing you next month. And thank you for being a part of the VTalks family. You have no idea how important it is to me to have people that can help our audience. And I've been very blessed. We have an amazing panel of experts, and just welcome to our family.
Thank you. We're excited.
Thank you.
And we're gonna go to the Hatha Yoga.
Oh, we're talking about that.
No, we're going.
You know where to find us.
You know where to find us.
I know where you are. All right, ladies. Thank you so much. I'm going to say goodnight. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks. Happy
Happy
Valentine's Day,
Valentine's
everyone.
All right. Bye, Brianne. Bye, Hannah. All right, everybody. We're just up at 8:05. I hope everyone enjoyed our show. Thank you for welcoming Brianne and Hannah. I'm very excited to have them be a part of the VTalks panel. If you have any suggestions for show topics, please take the time to message me and we'll see if we can make that happen for you. Have a good evening. Happy Valentine's Day and good night, everybody.